Okay. Welcome, everybody. I am here today with Tom Nelson. Tom Nelson, if for any of you that are new, Tom hosts American Archer on the Outdoor Channel. Tom has been a Michigan resident, I think, your whole life, correct?
Correct.
And Tom has been a bow hunter and diehard bow hunter, a member of Michigan Bow Hunters. And I know you were recently, I think, honored with Master Bowhunter, correct? And I think only 12
Correct.
people over there, 60 years, have been honored with that. So that's quite an honor. And now you also have been recognized through the Legends of Archery Hall of Fame. So congratulations on that. And quite a career you've had in archery. So I thought maybe we'd start out today with I met you a couple weeks ago. We got a chance to talk up in Grayling for the Fred Bear event. Great event and a lot of great people up there, and just honoring a legend in archery
Yeah, there you
and,
go.
what I call
True
like a
legend.
pioneer almost. So thought maybe you could start out. Maybe I know you were talking about your days of Anderson Archery, and I know a lot of people on this page know about Anderson Archery, remember those days, and thought maybe I'll just kind of let you go with some of your history with Anderson Archery, how you some of your times
Sure.
with Fred Bear, some stories, and we'll kind of go from there. Just make an interesting hour tonight.
Sure. You know, honestly, Dale, I was truly blessed with the way my whole life has evolved. I mean, I've been shooting a bow since I was about 7 years old, and
Mhm.
thought I knew what I was doing, but I really didn't. I found out later in life. But um, I grew up outside of Grand Ledge, Michigan, and Grand Ledge was the home to Anderson Archery, and
Right.
and it was one of those places that I would ride my bike into as a youth and loiter in the store there. I just loved hanging out there because they had full mounted polar bears and brown
That's
bears, a
cool.
full mounted moose, and all these dioramas of big game and such. And so,
Yeah.
as a youngster, I'd go in there and just in complete awe and just dream. Someday I hope maybe I could do this and things. And I started reading. Outdoor life and some of that my uncles and my dad would get,
Hmm.
and always was really, for some reason, I perhaps Anderson Archery had something to play with this, but I was always intrigued with the idea of bow hunting. And for a whole summer, I saved all the money I made mowing lawns and baling hay and such, and saved up enough money and bought a bow. When my
Hmm.
dad drove me in, I couldn't drive, of course, at that point, and I bought a 58-inch Red Wing Hunter, 45-pound bow, and
Cool.
some number 7 microflight arrows. And by gosh, I thought
You're
I'm a
ready to
bow
go.
hunter now, And, so I dabbled with it. I shouldn't even say dabble. I was pretty hardcore shooting and trying to figure out how everything worked. Self-taught archer. And when I was a sophomore in high school, one of my teachers came up to me and said, "Hey, Tom, do you shoot a bow?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I thought I heard somebody say you did." And he
Hmm.
said, they're looking for um, a part-time, some help out at Anderson Archery, and they called the
Okay.
school and stuff. And I thought, man, I'm all over that. And
Heck
so he
yeah.
set me up. He said, "You go out there after school and check it out." So I did, and I sat down. And at that time, Mike Anderson was running Anderson Archery, and by the time we finished our little interview, he said, "You're hired." And I said, "Great." And I started out just burning paper, sweeping
Okay.
floors, stocking shelves,
Yeah, I think
and
we all can relate to that.
yep. And because of my interest in archery, they when I say they, Mike and stuff, figured out that, boy, this kid knows more than you'd think. And I within a year, I was up on the sales floor selling
Okay.
archery equipment, and that's where I had my first encounters with Fred Bear and guys like Bob Munger,
Right.
another oftentimes unsung hero in the
Yeah.
bow hunting world. And Fred would come down and be at the store, and to me, I okay, it's Fred Bear, but he was just another bow hunter that came
Yeah,
in
that
there.
was a time when you
And
probably wasn't the stigma like today. I mean, where it was just
exactly.
a guy that you, not really a coworker, but I mean, someone that you knew through work.
And one of my jobs after I turned 16 and got my driver's license was on Fridays. I would take the archery van. We had this white van, panel van, and I would drive up to Grayling, Michigan, and pick up our week load of bows, Bear Grizzlies, Super Kodiaks, whatever we needed.
That's
And
cool.
oftentimes the order wasn't ready yet. So I would loiter up there, and Fred always was around. And he was such a great ambassador to the whole sport. But
Yeah.
instead of just going, oh, there's that kid again, oftentimes he'd invite me into his office, sit in here, and he'd tell me stories, and he'd always come out and always remembered my name, because I'm like I'm nobody, but he always said, Tom, how you doing? What's going on down there, and such. But
Yeah.
just a great guy. And behind me, I've got different pictures of
Hmm.
from hunts and stuff, and there's Fred Bear and I at the Bow Hunters Nationals down in Indiana, and my couple of my friends and my wife and Fred Bear, and I've had lunch with him, and like I said, sat at his desk. But I have some really fond memories. And one of my favorite stories, Dale, I'm going to take a minute
Okay.
and tell
Sure.
this.
Go ahead.
Fred was famous for signing 8x10 black and white autograph
Okay.
photos, like Good Hunting, Fred Bear, and people would stand in line to get these
Hmm.
photographs and such. And by gosh, over the years, I'd collected several of them. To Tom, Best Wishes, Fred Bear, or Good
Yeah.
Hunting, Fred Bear, usually. And when I was down at the Bow Hunters Nationals, which was a big archery shoot every year down in Clinton, Indiana,
Hmm.
and I would go down there every year. I was talking with Fred, just like you and I are, and Don Clark, who's one of the founders of Bowhunter magazine, happened to take a couple pictures. I didn't even realize he was taking pictures of us. And later, when Don was actually at our store one time, he had a manila envelope and he gave it to me, and it had several 8x10 photos of Fred and I, just like one hanging up
Hmm.
here.
Okay.
And he gave them to me. And I'm like, oh, this is great. So the next time I ran into Fred, I'd taken one of the photos and wrote, to my good friend Fred, Tom Nelson, just the opposite of what usually
Okay.
happens with him signing. So I went up and there were some people standing around. They go, hey, Fred, this is for you. And he took that 8x10 black and white and he looked at it and he just roared laughing. He said, Tom, he said, I've signed and given away thousands of 8x10 photographs, but you're the first person that's ever given me one autographed by them. And I thought, made me happy. And then I realized a little bit later, I'm like, I probably made it to the round file,
Yeah. There you
maybe.
go.
But
Yeah,
I
everything I've heard about, I mean, stories I've heard, I didn't personally ever know Fred Bear, but I mean, every story I've heard from you and from other gentlemen and other hunters, really has been, he really, from what I take it, he took the time to get to know people
yeah,
and made you feel like you were just, I mean, a person, he wasn't above
yeah,
you. He was really just a average hunter, and that's what he
he
considered
was.
himself too.
And that's why I think he succeeded so much, especially in his marketing and branding of Bear Archery and the
Hmm.
success of the company as a whole. Was he was just like like you and I,
Yeah.
that anybody could approach him and talk to him, and he never had this big ego, which sadly you see a lot in today's world, even in
Yeah.
today's hunting arena. There's certain guys that and gals that it is
Yeah.
what it is. And Fred was never ever like that. Just
Yeah.
super polite, a true
Yeah,
gentleman.
I've always gotten that from every story I've always heard. I've always picked up on that, and I know I was at the Fred Bear event that weekend. They were talking, or one of the gentlemen was talking about how he would pick up some kids and go down the orphanage, and
Yep.
so just a great guy, and not just in the hunting world, but just a person himself.
Yep.
And that
Yep.
was
A good friend of mine, Roger Atwood, who's past president of the Pope and Young Club, told me a story here a few years ago that he had went to a banquet and Fred Bear was the guest speaker. And he said, I'm just a young bow hunter. I don't know anybody. And I'm in there going like, what am I doing here? I
mhm.
probably should leave. And he said, I was kind of like the wallflower standing off. And he said, Fred was sitting with a table full of guys. And he said, getting ready for the banquet to start. And he got up and walked towards me. I go, oh, geez, here comes Fred Bear. And he said, young fella, he said, are you looking for a place to sit? And he said, well, yeah, I guess. He said, why don't you come join our table? And invited him over. And he said, I sat through the whole banquet at Fred Bear's table. He got up and asked me to sit. And he said, he didn't know me from anybody. He said, I was
Yeah,
in awe the whole night, sitting
that's
there at
pretty
the same
cool.
table with him. But that's
Yeah.
perfect example of Fred Bear.
Yeah, and that's really what I always say when it comes to hunting too. I mean, it takes everybody really should almost be like a mentor, because you're always, you may not be what I call like a celebrity or an average Joe hunter per se, but you can still pass on information to the next hunter
Yeah,
and give,
absolutely.
because deer hunting, as you know, I mean, I don't care how many years you've been hunting, it's a learning process every single year. I mean, it's
Very
you can
true.
never know enough. I mean, just when you think you've got something figured out, that mighty whitetail will change things up and make you
Yeah.
think things all over again. And that's where I think when it comes to, like I said, a lot of TV shows and podcasts and stuff. I mean, I think sometimes just basic information really helps a lot of people. And like I said, so I know
I agree with that 100%.
you've
You
been
know, another,
blessed. I know I know you've written some magazine articles and a lot of stuff and been able to give a lot of your information out to people, which is cool.
and one of the things I've always really tried to do, Dale, especially in the TV show, is when the viewer's done. You know, we like to make, of course, want it entertaining, but
Right.
I want them when the show ends and the credits are running for the viewer to go, my gosh, I didn't know that.
Right.
That's good. You know, leave, you know, educate and leave them with good information because you know we're all looking for that. I mean, heck,
Yeah,
if I
exactly.
could figure out the whitetail puzzle and successfully put it together, I'd be a millionaire if I had all those little
Yeah, I
secrets.
think people have been trying for a long time,
Yeah.
and but it really still comes down to it's like when you were saying, oh, you were like friends with Fred Bear and stuff. I mean, as far as did you get an opportunity to hunt really with him, or was it more just
You know, I never did because of
okay?
my age at the time and such. I never was fortunate enough to get
Hmm.
invited up to Grouse Haven or
Okay.
any of those spots, but I didn't. But I was blessed in the same way because some of the older guys that worked at Anderson Archery were veteran archers and bow hunters, and
Hmm.
so you know I was hanging onto their coattail and letting them drag me around, and
Yeah.
I was very blessed that I had some individuals who were very patient with me, and I made you know I went to the school of hard knocks too, but
Yeah.
I had a definite jump start because I was hanging around successful hunters that
Yeah.
you were willing to pass on their knowledge to me. And now at my stage, after 50 years of bow hunting, I try to do the same. I
Yeah.
mean, I
So
love to mentor youngsters and
yeah, so maybe we'll just talk a little bit about that. I mean, somebody really that we've had a problem with across the country with hunters recruitment getting a little bit tougher. What would you really like somebody's think about getting into archery? Um, what would you really suggest to that person? What avenue or what would you suggest in your mind? I mean, being you've seen been to a lot of states and different opportunities also.
you know, let's I'm going to kind of just relate this to Michigan more so than other states. Um, when we talk about this a little bit, just because a lot of states such as Kansas, Iowa, I mean, there's accesses to good hunting areas
Yeah,
much easier to get. I mean,
right.
where I hunt in North Dakota every year, I I can go anywhere. I mean, everybody lets you hunt.
Hmm.
Where unlike Michigan, as you well know, this is probably the most difficult state there is to gain access to property
Yeah,
to hunt, and that's the number one obstacle
right.
for any newbie in the
Yeah,
sport
and I
is
know
getting.
that topic is brought up. I'm a member of that Deer Man initiative, and I know that's a topic that always comes up where there's areas that need a lot of deer harvests, and yet the access for hunters to get in there just aren't available to them, and it's something that really is trying to be addressed.
So, like, if you moved in, if you're from Nebraska and you moved into Grand Ledge, Michigan, where I live,
Hmm.
all I could say, if especially if you like to bow hunt, good luck if you start knocking on doors trying to find a place to hunt
Yeah,
because it's virtually impossible. So, going back to our subject, you know, one of the main things that I think that I would recommend to anybody getting started is join their local archery club,
hmm,
get involved, find a mentor, and there's plenty of us out there willing to take
right.
anybody out and show them the ropes and take them hunting. I do it all the time. I've taken so many people out and I'm proud to say watched them shoot their first deer or been
That's
involved in their
awesome.
first deer. And to me, that is so much more rewarding
Oh, it
than
is.
harvesting a deer myself.
Yeah. I mean, I
And
hear that just on my hunting page when people submit photos, especially during like youth seasons. I mean, the parents are more excited than the kid at times. I mean,
yeah,
just the
oh,
smile
no
on their
question.
faces is just amazing seeing that first deer, that person with the first deer. It's a really cool moment.
But you know, taking and finding a mentor, getting yourself involved with and surrounded by other archers, bow hunters that are accomplished, boy, that puts you way ahead of the game, because
Right.
to just go out and buy a bow and some arrows and do some practicing and get proficient, and then off you go. There is a lot to learn in the whitetail woods.
Yeah.
As I mentioned a second ago, I mean, I've been bow hunting. Last year was my 50th season hunting whitetail deer with a bow in Michigan, and I'm still learning things every single
Right.
year. And I'm like, how come I never thought of that earlier, or
Yeah.
or whatever? And it's but that's half the fun of it, because the
Well, it
learning
is. If
it's
it got too easy, it would take away
yeah,
the fun, and it's never going to get easy. I mean,
yeah, it'll
it's
never
getting
be
more
easy.
difficult. No.
Nope, nope.
Uh,
Sometimes you're a
s-
little lucky, but
so maybe we'll throw a scenario out there. So a hunter, somebody goes out and gets a bow, does some practicing, is ready to get out in the woods, has an opportunity to hunt some land that he found, or he or she that they found. Um, how would you, especially like this time of year now, what type of scouting would you recommend doing this time of year, right around this April when spring, everything's, what should a
this
hunter really be looking for right now?
to me, Dale, this is my favorite time of year to scout. You're not disrupting the deer herd,
Mhm.
not spooking deer. And for the most part, in March and April, the Michigan deer woods looks just like it did last October and
Right.
November. The leaves are down, the trails show up really well. You can tell where the deer are moving, where they're not,
Mhm.
and take advantage of that. Clear your shooting lanes now, pick
Right.
tree stand sites. Best possible time of year to be out there scouting. And unbelievably, so a lot of people don't take advantage of it.
Right.
But this is when my wife Beth is a avid bow hunter, and she's my hunting partner. We hunt together all over
That's cool.
and often, and she agrees. She loves to shed hunt, and this is
Okay.
when we're out there, and we're blessed. We have a nice chunk of property that we own, that we hunt and such,
Mhm.
and but we're out there every year looking to see if anything's changed, if crop rotation, if the deer are over here moving, and I'm a guy, I take notes all the time. I've always got a pen in my
Okay.
deer notebook, and I'm writing, okay, such and such, like the split oak was slow this year. There were no acorns, or the deer are moving along the west fence more than they've ever had. And I review those notes. I look at them. I take them all. I write down the weather conditions each day, where I hunted, what I saw,
Okay.
and I review those this time of year too. And I'm like, okay, I need to move that stand, 100 yards to the west or whatever.
Mhm.
And this is a time of year I try to get all that done way in advance. I think one of the biggest mistakes that bow hunters make is going out, making those corrections just prior to bow season or during bow season or the week
Right.
before, disrupting the whitetail woods and stuff, not doing it in advance. You do more harm stomping around out there the week before bow season, hanging stands and such, than you can imagine.
Mhm.
That's when you actually should stay out of the woods. Not even, I call it holding a surprise party for the deer. When I go into this stand or that stand, it's like that first sit or two is going to be your best bet as far as success out of there. And
Right.
so stay out of there, and mark those spots. If you have success, you're seeing deer here, remember those spots and go back to them.
Mhm.
And in the same breath, I will say that probably the most mortal sin that I see bow hunters make is over hunting a stand, going back to it. Oh
Right.
gosh, I saw a nice buck there yesterday, day after day, and in turn, letting whitetails pattern you, which they definitely do, instead of rotating or giving stands a break. And I call it tree stand burnout, like a lot of hunters
Right.
call it tree stand
Yeah, I
burnout.
think
And
sometimes I've heard that term where they say you can't shoot them from the couch, which I agree with that. But on the other hand, sometimes you can do more harm
oh, for
hunting a
sure.
stand than if the conditions aren't right. Sometimes
Yep.
you're better off maybe sitting on the couch if you don't have another option
Yeah. And
for a
Dale, you
stand.
don't have to have, let's say a lot of guys go, well, I only have a, 20-acre piece or 40-acre piece that I'm hunting. I don't have any option. I've got to go sit in that same stand. No, you don't. Put
Yeah.
another one 100 yards away. I mean, that's
Yeah.
all it takes. Just use a different approach and a different exit strategy each time. But just give that particular stand a break. I seldom hunt a stand, very seldom hunt a stand 2 days in a row,
Okay.
and I usually try to give them that 3-4 day break.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, because I know a lot of people do have these smaller parcels now, and I know maybe
oh yeah,
right. So, and that, like you said, you can be very productive on some of these small parcels if they're hunted correctly.
exactly
And
right. And again, you don't have to move your stand a half mile away. You can have a tree stand, like as I mentioned, another stand 100 yards away
Right.
that you hunt, and
Mhm.
just again just to give it a break. But I think over hunting stands, is as I said, in my opinion, probably the biggest hunting sin that I see hunters make.
Right. Now considering somebody, I mean, what type of changes are you going to make with stand locations when it comes to early in the season compared to more when we
Oh,
get closer into the rut?
yeah,
Different scenarios, different types of hunting that you're going to go
absolutely.
through.
Yep.
So if somebody's going to go out October 1st, they want to go hunt, weather's a little bit warmer usually. What type of stand location are you looking for?
Well, but by the time I decide where I'm going to go come October 1st,
Are you,
I
well, you, right.
yep, I put some time in as far as long range scouting, which means sitting in my air conditioned truck with a pair of 10 by 50 optics and watching where they're approaching this food plot or field and such, and have a pretty good idea. So I hunt a lot of especially the first couple of weeks. I'll hunt travel routes to and from feed areas where they're coming out. More edge hunting, which I don't do a lot of later on at all, but
Mhm.
in the early season, I'll do some edge hunting. And another thing that's often neglected, but is something you don't want to neglect, is hunting water sources. Deer have to water, and
Right.
generally have to water twice a day. And depending on your property, your section that you're hunting, if there's a creek there, a pond, something that where they're watering on those early October days when it's 70, 80 degrees,
Right.
once that whitetail gets out of his bed, one of the first things they're going to head for is a water source to get a drink. I've
Yeah.
got a couple of man-made
That's
little,
what I was
I
just
call
going to
them
ask. And a lot
bottom.
of people talk about the man-made ones.
Yes,
If someone's thinking about doing that, where would you situate that? Where would be a good situation, a good spot to put that man-made water hole?
relatively close, but not too close to the bedding area. So one of the first things they do, is hit that water hole, but they want to feel pretty well protected moving into it.
Mhm.
To have them approach in the daylight, you want it in some pretty good cover. And it doesn't, again, it doesn't have to be a large water source. One of my, um, I'll tell you one of my little secrets. I took one of um, a kid's plastic swimming pool, this
Okay.
blue plastic swimming pool,
Hmm.
and I got it for like 50 cents at a garage sale. And I
Yeah, I've
took
heard some
and
pretty creative ideas that people do for water holes like
dug
that.
a hole
Right.
and I sunk it down to it, and I put a thin layer of dirt on the bottom of it, and I've got it sloped so it does collect the rainwater. But I've had to, especially, um, was it last 2 years ago when it was pretty dry in late September? But I hauled water to it. I mean, to keep it filled up,
Okay.
and it was pretty productive. But remember that, like where I had this, there was water, but the nearest water was probably they're a good mile away. So I had the only water source actually in that mile square that I was
Okay.
hunting.
Okay.
But it was very productive the first
Right.
couple weeks.
So
Very
you're
productive.
talking if you're going to do that, though, put a little bit closer to their bedding area.
Yeah, absolutely. Or
Okay.
at the very least in some good cover, like to put it in
Okay.
a grass field or something. Those deer aren't going to hit it till
Right.
middle of the night.
Okay.
So put it where they can get in there, hour before dark and not feel exposed at all. And
Mhm.
and that works really well. But that's what I kind of concentrate on: water sources in the early season, um, easy in and out access to my food plots and or crop fields. But by the middle of the month, I'm switching. I'm already at that point. I'm moving a little farther back in.
Okay.
I'm looking for where the does are congregating. I've never, as I said, I've never been a big edge hunter, like sitting over a cornfield or anything. I like
Okay.
to get back in a little bit. I found from my experience that if I'm back in the woods a little bit or a ways, that I get earlier shooting in the evenings, later shooting in the morning when they're
Yeah.
working their way back to the bed, and I'm not spooking those deer going across a pick cornfield, hour
Yeah.
before daylight, or spooking them coming out. So I like to go back in there, and above all, about the 20th of October, I switch gears completely again, and I become I'm a big fan of mock scrape hunting.
Okay.
Huge fan. I've shot probably well over 50 to 70% of the antlered bucks I've killed over mock scrapes.
Mhm.
Scrapes
Now,
I've made
when it comes to
myself.
your mock scrapes, I know on the marker there's products you can buy. What is your technique for making a mock scrape? Because I mean, you could probably ask 100 hunters, get a different answer for everybody. Some work, and everybody has different ideas and different techniques, and even with, like I said, licking branches and things like that. So, is there anything that's worked great for you?
Well, first of all, it's all about location, 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 and you might go out and, for example, make 25 mock scrapes. Maybe 5 of them will get taken over by a buck and become active. Some they ignore completely and such. But it has to do that overhanging branch, as you mentioned, big key,
Right.
big key. And oftentimes I like to use vines.
Right.
I'll cut vine sticks and I'll zip
Yeah, we've
tie
had some
them,
pretty good luck with those.
and
Right.
they work great. But I visually make them very appealing. I want that buck to see it from a ways, and scent, of course, is a big key. There's lots of artificial scents and deer urine scents that you can put in there.
Do you normally like to use
I
any
would
type
use,
of like scent drippers, or are you more just leave a scent in the?
I'll tell you, I urinate in them myself.
Yeah, that's very
I
common.
do.
Right.
Yep.
Well,
I've
they used
had
years ago that was a big hot
extremely.
topic. Well, geez, what are you doing now? It's not a problem at all. Yeah.
It's I'm telling you that I was in hunting camp here several years ago with a chemist,
Okay.
and he was from Connecticut, and we got talking about urine and human urine and this, and he goes into this long spiel one night about how urine breaks down into common urea and this, and goes
Right.
into all the. He said within 20 minutes you can't define the difference between this and such, and he said, I have no problem. I've killed umpteen dozen bucks just urinating out of the stain. So and I at that by then I had already been urinating in
Okay.
my mock scrapes with good success, and that just, I guess, kind of confirmed what I was doing was right,
Yeah.
because I was back then, Dale. I wouldn't tell people I was doing. I'm like, they're gonna think I'm nuts, So I'm just gonna keep my mouth
Yeah.
shut. But
Yeah. I think
I
it's more common now than
it
it used
is,
to be.
yeah,
Definitely, it's more talked about than.
yeah,
And like you
and
said, he was saying it was like 20 minutes. I mean, so literally by time you even get to your
right,
to your tree stand or set in, the deer don't know any
yep.
difference. So
But I go in there and I leave a hoof print mark. I've got a deer hoof. I'll make it look exactly like
okay.
a buck scrape should. I do use sometimes some interdigital gland scent on there if I have time. But again, I think location, the overhanging branch, and remember the ones that are taken over, because I have one mock scrape, Dale. I'm not kidding you. I bet I've had it there for 20 years,
Yeah.
and I go back, and every year it's active. And
Right.
I don't know how many bucks I've killed off of that, but and I blame it mostly on location, or
Yeah.
credit it to the
Yeah.
location, because it isn't a great intersection, but the bucks just love it in there and things. So it
Yeah, sometimes it's really hard to figure out why this one scrape or one area is getting
oh
used.
yeah,
It's just, I mean,
I,
you try to bang your head against the wall trying to figure out why is that buck using
exactly.
that specific year after year, and yet sometimes there's just not an answer for it. And um, now, are you utilizing trail cams with those mock scrapes?
Oh yes, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yep.
I guess the question I have on that are height wise. I mean, I know a lot of people are putting the cameras up a lot higher, get them out of the deer's view. Some are in there. Do you have any preference as far as what you're doing with that?
I don't put them right on top. I always keep them a ways away, um, just so the picture might not be as good as if you had it up there,
Yeah.
within 5 yards or something. But
Yeah, you're really just trying to see what activities you're getting.
yes,
Right.
exactly. And I've gotten a little more creative the last few years, and have actually put them up in the tree at an angle facing down, which
I've had some
makes it a
pretty good
little,
luck with that.
yeah, a
Yeah.
little more difficult, when you want to, if
Yeah.
you're not using a
It
cell
seems like I
camera.
don't get as many deer
Sorry.
that look right at the camera.
Well, yeah, I
A lot of
agree.
times you'll get one picture after another. A deer is staring right. I mean, they're
Yep,
looking right at it.
yep.
Not that you
And
can
that
100%
helps.
fool it, but I mean, anything you can try to do, whether you're trying to camouflage the camera a little bit, but And mainly,
And
like you said, scent is a big thing, trying to keep your scent off of it.
exactly, and it's just a neat picture when it's up above and you're getting a picture of that buck or doe or any of
Right.
them from down below there and such. And I've also something else in just the last few years I've been doing is putting a couple cameras out at the same location. It's amazing how many deer you miss
Right.
from your camera that you don't even realize are in there that the other camera gets a photo of and
Right.
such. But to me, trail cameras are a great asset. I don't think it's cheating at all because it's
No.
not like it's shooting, helping you get your deer, but it gives you a great idea of what's in your area. Um, what time they're traveling through, quality of bucks, how many deer and such. And um, I always want to position myself come the November rut where the vast majority of the does are hanging out.
Right.
And I I don't care if I've only had one buck picture there all year, but if I'm getting 20 photos
Right.
of antlerless deer there a day,
Right.
that's where I'm going to be come November 4th or whatever
Right.
or Halloween because that's where the bucks are going to gravitate towards.
Mm-hmm. Shift a little bit as far as now, a lot of people are hunting state land. I'm not sure how much time or over the years, how much like state land you've hunted. I know there's differences. I mean, where you're limited on the things you can do as a hunter on state land. Um, any specifics that you could really elaborate on for somebody that's hunting that and doesn't have the chance to hunt private property?
Sure. It's interesting. I cut my teeth hunting state land
Mm-hmm.
in northern Michigan, southern Michigan. For a long time, that was my only option. As a matter of fact, I fell in with a group of veteran hunters that hunted state land and did it the old style and hunted out of camped in
Right.
tents and stuff in northern Michigan. And those are some of my fondest
Yeah,
memories
those
of
are some
deer
great
camp
memories.
or hunting up there. So anybody that's hunted state land for whitetails realizes it's a difficult task
Right.
and to learn to and be if you're successful on state land, by gosh, you're way ahead of the game. You can walk
Right.
into any whitetail venue, and be successful because
Right.
it's difficult. But one of the things that we started doing as time progressed was trying to get farther back in than anybody else,
Right.
utilizing a boat to go down, down the river to, I'm thinking of this one chunk of state land we hunted where we would float down in the dark, get out, at our different locations and get way in farther than anybody else. And then later on, I actually had great success. Instead of going way back in, I was hunting sometimes 100 yards from the gravel road and stuff and having even better luck just because everybody else was going way
Everybody was
back.
going exactly. I've heard that too.
And it's and those deer were just going into the state land oftentimes to bed and such and then coming right off. So I would hunt that zone maybe 100 200 yards into state land from the edge of private land and was very successful for years doing that. And
Mhm.
one of my good bow hunting buddies to this day still utilizes that. He's a big edge hunter, and he's just in again hunting just inside the state land, but hunting the trails coming in and out that are going on to private. So and has had
Would you
phenomenal.
recommend? I mean, I don't know. That's a good thing to do. I mean, as far as somebody that's in a pressure area like that with a lot of people, I think it's very beneficial to do an all day sit. Wouldn't you agree
Oh,
with that? Where a lot of people are heading back in, tired of sitting or getting cold or
yeah.
something. Longer you can sit, the better you're going to improve your odds throughout
No,
the
that's
day.
very sage advice right there because that's a fact. Come 10, 11 o'clock, most of the guys are going to go in, sit in their
Right.
pickup and eat a sandwich or take a little snooze. And that's just doing nothing but moving deer. And,
Yeah.
and if you put the effort in to get back in there, by gosh, and I've done this lots of times, like, okay, I got to get out of here. So I'll climb down from my stand, even if it's to eat a sandwich at the base of the tree or walk 50
Right.
yards, relieve myself, stretch out, then eat lunch and then just get back in there. Even a 20-minute break like
Right.
that. Here, this is probably 3-4 years ago. I that came into play where I'm sitting in my stand with a cameraman at this point, and I told him I said I can't sit up here anymore. I got to get down, and it was like maybe noonish. I can't remember exactly. We climbed down, walked like 50, 60 yards just to walk. We sat down I even remember my sandwich. It was a bologna sandwich with mustard. We ate that, and he was kind of like my cameraman, really enjoying the break and stuff. And I go, we really should, it's November. We really should go climb back up in that tree. We've been down for 20 minutes. We got up in there. We weren't there 10, 15 minutes max. Here comes this nice 9-point buck, and I arrowed it. And I'm like, if we would have
Right.
sat for an hour, I'd have never shot that. But he was just
Right.
cruising middle of the day. So
Yeah, I hear. I mean, like I said, I get a lot of pictures and stuff sent in that hunting page I run, and like I said, there's a lot of nice deer that are taken midday, and doesn't have to be. I mean, it's well beneficial to sit the whole day if you can, and especially with a lot of the advanced equipment and everything nowadays, it's a lot easier than it used to be.
oh yeah.
I know I started hunting like the late '70s, early '80s, and I know even hunting equipment wasn't as far as warmth and everything, where things
Yeah.
have come a long ways over the years. And this does allow you a little more opportunity. And it was a great tip, what you just said, though, to maybe if you maybe just need that little 20-minute break, just get down, stretch, and
Yeah.
rather than hiking back, that sometimes it's
Yeah.
just enough to
Those tree
motivate you to get back
stands
in.
tree stands do get small if you're up
Right.
there on a ladder stand or something after a bit where you're just like, I've gotta stretch out and such. And oftentimes, 20 minutes is all you need just to get
Right.
down and have that break. But
Mhm.
there's not the worst thing is, to be up there and lose that edge where you're not alert anymore and
Right.
you're
And you're really
dozing off
fidgeting
or
around and
whatever.
right.
That's not doing anybody any good. So just taking that little bit of a break. And as I said, though, I, you know, I've been there where I got to get out of here for a few minutes. So
Maybe just a couple other topics as far as that. As far as now, somebody maybe that's new, where or when you walk through the woods looking for the ideal tree to sit in, what factors go into picking that tree, specific tree? What should somebody be looking for? Because I know sometimes, I mean, it's easier. We've hunted all our lives. You just know that's the tree I'm going to sit in. And yet, somebody that really hasn't hunted a lot maybe walks out in the woods and like looks around and really doesn't know where should I sit. What would you kind
right.
of briefly give a tip for that?
So some of the to me most important factors and criteria to make it the tree, the tree you want
Mhm.
is one. I'm a real stickler for cover. I don't like telephone pole type trees.
Yeah.
A straight up poplar with no limbs that you're going to look like the Zeppelin blimp up there floating around once the foliage is down. So I'm all about cover. I like to be up there with plenty of limbs. I like big oaks. I like
Yeah.
fir trees, something that's going to break up my outline. Um, because I a lot of I've got friends of mine that like they get up there. Well, I get up 25, 30 feet, so I don't care if there is no cover. I'll just get up above.
Right.
But your shot angle becomes so iffy when you
Yeah.
get up that high, and it's just I don't like. I want to be able to make sure I can get a double lung, not a single lung hit. So I like that 18 to 20, 22 feet range
Okay.
as far as
Now,
height. But I
say
always
somebody's
look
in an area where there just isn't a lot of trees with cover. Would you suggest then doing a ground blind or?
absolutely,
Okay. So you,
absolutely. I was a big, I was a, uh, I guess a naysayer when it came to pop up blinds and stuff. I thought, oh, there's no Michigan whitetail is going to put up with
yeah,
that. But they've come a long way, and if you have them up in advance,
right.
I've got as I mentioned, my wife hunts. I've got nephews now hunting, granddaughters. My daughter hunts, so I'm utilizing on our place on our farm more ground blinds than we ever have,
Hmm.
and they're safe. I don't have to worry about anybody falling out,
Right.
and they're comfortable. You can spend more time in there if it's windy, the
Hmm.
weather conditions and such. But deer do adapt to them. And
Right.
and again, I was probably the biggest naysayer about them when they first come out. You're never going to kill a good buck out of one of these
Right.
ground blinds. I've done it myself, and we utilize a lot of them. But the key is brushing them in, putting them up well in advance, because to
Right.
this day it is hard. If you're on state land, you got to haul that blind in there and popping it up,
Right.
especially with a bow. Gun's different, but pop up a pop up blind on state land and hope to get a buck or doe or anything in close enough. Well,
Hmm.
that can be a little tough, but
Right.
don't ever think that you shouldn't have a ground blind in your archery arsenal. I mean,
Right.
it's a key piece of equipment.
Okay. And then let's elaborate a little bit on, once again, new hunter, maybe just shot their first deer. Okay. They're in the tree stand, make a good shot, deer bolts off. What at that moment should this hunter do now? I mean, brand new hunter,
Yep.
never shot a deer before, made a great shot, deer bolts off.
Great question, Dale.
You're sitting in your tree stand right now, Tom. What goes through your mind and what is your next step?
The first thing I do is mark, okay, he just went past that maple tree just 10 yards to the left of it. That's the last place I saw him. That's mark that spot. Remember that. So often, I would guess between the hunting camps I'm in every year, our own farm and such, I would average, I would guess 20 to 40 blood trails a year that I'm on. Sometimes even more now that I think about it with my neighbors and such. And so often, Dale, we walk into that spot, especially after dark, got the lights. Okay, you were in the tree right there. Okay, John, where was the buck last you saw him? Well, I think maybe to your left. They can't find that spot. They didn't mark it, and that's probably the number one thing I see as far as a mistake that happens. So here I am again. Okay, there goes that deer. He just ran to the left of that maple out there about 50 yards. Mentally mark it, remember it. Then where's my arrow? Did I shoot through it? Where was he standing when I shot him? So that you can look for blood right off the bat. You know, those are a couple of the key things you want. Where do you think the hit was? You know, do we need to back off? Was it a liver hit? What was it a double lung? You know, and that's why finding your arrow is so important.
Right.
And I'm a big advocate for lighted nocks for that reason, just because they help you find that arrow quickly, even if it's not a pass through. If they carry it away, it stays out there. So those are, you know, if you can even remember those couple keys right there, when help comes or you get down from that stand and have to go look for that deer, it puts you way ahead of the game.
Right.
Because it's so frustrating. You know that, Dale, as a hunter, if you get out there and your buddy can't tell you where he last saw that deer, it can turn into a needle in a haystack.
I mean, because a lot of times, I mean, you'll maybe get to the spot where you shot the deer and there might not be any blood there. So you're going to need at least a general vicinity. Where was that deer at? So I agree. That's a pretty critical thing for a hunter to pay attention to.
Dale, do we have time so I can tell a real quick little story about blood?
Yeah, we got a little bit of time. Yeah, go ahead.
This just recently happened. I'd kind of forgotten about it till you brought this up. I'm in my tree stand. It's prime time. It's in October on our farm, and my phone is in my breast pocket of my bibs, and it starts buzzing. And I'm like, oh gosh. And I look at it, and it's one of my neighbors, and it says, I just shot a big one. Okay. So I slide it back in my pocket. It buzzes again 30 seconds later. This time he's calling me. I'm like, I'm in a tree stand. I text back.
Right.
Put it back in there. He texts again. I just shot a big one. I said, I know. I'll call you when I get down. Put it back in. Minute later, seriously, a minute later, he buzzes again. I look at it. I just found my arrow. There's blood on it. I put good, nothing more. Put it back in my vest pocket. 2-3 minutes go by and it buzzes again. I'm like, I might as well just get down, you know. I take it out. He says, I just jumped him. He had gotten down within 7-8 minutes. Went after him, jumped that deer. Make a long story short, we did find it, but it was very difficult after that. He had liver shot it, but we did recover that deer the following morning. But had he just backed off and such, the deer wouldn't even have went 100 yards.
Right. Yeah, because I look at that's a lot of stuff where I mean, I hunted with I learned a lot from my dad, my older brothers, grandpa, things like that. So a lot of people, like I said, that's what I consider, and maybe or what you consider, just it's common knowledge. Okay,
elementary. Just
and yet for somebody that really has never been out in that situation, that's kind of a little bit. What do I do now? And so I figure sometimes just that really basic knowledge, and like you said, taking a shot and waiting X amount of time, depending on how your shot's been, I mean, it's very critical. And like I said,
in any case, even if you think you made the best hit in the world, time is your ally. Back out, get some help, go back. have a cup of coffee or whatever, and go back. That deer's not going anywhere. I mean,
Right.
if he's down, so that I always tell everybody that just give it some time. Just
Right.
that urge, your adrenaline's
Well,
pumped up.
yeah,
You want to
exactly.
get after it, and you know, uh, more than once I've had to just take a young hunter and say, just sit down, we're good,
Right.
drink this pop or whatever, and
Right.
we'll,
Yeah,
we'll
it's
get
I mean,
him.
we've all been through that. It's very difficult to do. I mean,
Yes.
your adrenaline's pumping and I mean, you want to get that deer and yet you just
And
got to back
so
off like you
often,
said.
Dale, where they claim they hit it and where the arrow actually did, or
Right.
the bullet is oftentimes two different things. So
Right. So
always getting
whether,
safe.
like I said, either way, good idea just to back off, wait, and give that deer some time to expire. And that's the great information. Um, maybe how about real quick? We've been we're gonna run this real late, but turkey season's coming up.
Oh, yes.
If you could give one tip to a turkey hunter that's gonna, in your years of experience turkey hunting, what would you give that person?
Be patient. One of the things that all hunters, it seems like, especially younger novice ones, want instant gratification. Want to go out there and make a couple squawks on that box call and hear hear that response right away, and have that classic hunt they see on TV. Here come the big Tom strutting in, and
Yeah.
pull that trigger, and you're walking home with a 10-inch beard. But I bow hunt them. I'm a big fan of bow hunting turkeys, and I'm already getting geeked up for it. And matter of fact, I was out today getting permission on a farm down the road from ours, and that he's had a lot of turkeys there all winter, and making sure I could hunt it this spring, which he was
Mhm.
gracious enough to say yes. But when I'm out there, if there's birds in the area, sit tight.
Yeah.
This moving every, okay, nothing happened. It's like varmint calling. You got to sit there for a bit. You can't
Right.
just, okay, 10 minutes, nothing's happening. I'm on the go. But be patient. Don't call too loudly. Don't call too often. Everybody
Mhm.
wants to play with their box calls or
Right.
speed calls, diaphragms, and I can tell honestly, instantly almost, if when I hear some yelps in the woods and stuff, if it's a human or a live turkey, just by the
Mhm.
volume, um, how much they're calling, etc. But be patient,
Yeah.
call sporadically, sit there. If there's birds in your area, sit there all day, as long as you
Yeah.
can. I hunt all day. When I leave,
Yeah.
to hunt turkeys in the morning, I'm out there. I don't come in till I'm done.
Yeah, I was talking to one of your friends recently, Tom Morang,
Yes,
bow
Tom.
hunters, right?
Yes,
And I
great
know
guy.
he's getting pretty pumped up. I know he's really loves his turkey hunting, and um, I know he had told me that a lot of his best successes really came a little bit later in the morning. I know everyone always says get out there daybreak, which I mean you should be, but I know I mean that's pretty much what you just said. I mean that's that bird can come by any time of the day.
And what happens, Dale? Those toms, they're going to a hen. They're probably even roosting with hens. So
Right.
they come down or go to those hens, and they hang out with them, hopefully successfully breeding. Hen goes to nest by 10 o'clock, 11 at the latest, and those toms are done. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't have a girlfriend now. But they're still active, and so they're looking. If you're out there still at noon or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, sporadically calling,
Right.
that lovesick Tom's going to come in. I have probably arrowed more. Yeah, I dare say that. I bet I've arrowed more birds in the afternoon than I have in the morning.
Okay.
I truly have.
So it basically pays to sit and be patient once
Yep.
again.
And one other thing, afternoon birds are much quieter. Might not gobble at all.
Okay.
I've shot several that come in silent. All of a sudden I'm out there and I hear that, and you hear them drumming right next to you. They just come in quiet. So
Yeah.
the bird
Okay.
I shot last year, I shot at 20 after 3 in the afternoon.
Okay. Awesome.
Came in silent.
Maybe
I never
we'll
made him.
kind of just real quick before we close this out here. You've hunted Michigan your whole life,
Yes,
and
sir.
I'm sure you've had a lot of great memories. A lot of changes going on in Michigan right now. What are your outlook on what do you see happening in Michigan right now?
Well, you hear
Just
all
in
this
general, I
stuff
guess.
about the doe situation, that we've got to kill more does, and do we need to extend the season, or how do we go about this? And we started out talking about access
Right.
to land to hunt. I look at our area around here; it's so split up now into people owning 10 acres here, 5 acres there,
Yeah.
and they won't let anybody hunt, and they're becoming little sanctuaries for deer. And I would like to see somehow the DNR, our state government, um, give some sort of incentive to landowners to give access to
Right.
hunters. I'd also like to see our Michigan license become like Kansas and Illinois and such, where a doe tag comes with it at no charge. Even if we have to up the buck tag by $5 or something,
Right.
so that when you get your deer license and you're a buck hunter, you still have that doe tag. I think that would encourage hunters to take an antlerless deer.
Right.
But it's all going to come down to I don't think changing season dates. I don't think increasing seasons are going to do any good. I really think it's going to come down to just having more access and making it more affordable. I have less. I just look at my group of friends, how many people now just aren't even hunting anymore because they can't
Yeah.
hunt that piece they had, or their uncle sold the farm, and
Right.
it's a real problem. And
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know one of the gentlemen, our pastor from our church, has joined our hunting group. Place here he was hunting, he lost that opportunity at the farm, and like I said, it's all too common, and that really what it boils down to. Somehow we're going to have to come up with a way to, like I said, open up access to get, because I think a lot of these hunters that maybe have left, I think they wanted. It's just that it's become very difficult for them and frustrating.
there's a longtime member of our archery club who last year did not hunt last fall, and at least he claims he's selling his bow and such because he lost access to where he's hunted for 20 some years. And he said, I can't find any place to hunt. He said, I might as well just quit. And that there's, if he's just one of 1,000,
Right.
I mean, that's something to think about. And sure, there's state land, but state land's tough, and maybe you don't live around any state
Right,
land.
exactly. Sometimes you might have a 3 hour drive to
Exactly.
get that
Yeah.
state land. And I know I live in the southeast corner, and um, I know I have a couple friends that and as you said before, I mean, they said they've knocked on a lot of doors and get a lot of no's, and just it's difficult to find something down here. Now, if you live up north a little ways, I agree. I mean, it's probably a little easier to drive a couple of miles down the street and find a area
Right.
that's state land. But time's limited with people working a lot of hours in today's world, and money and things like that plays a big effect. So I agree. It'd be nice if we could get some more opportunities in the southern
Yep.
part and especially that's where a lot of doe control needs to be taken care of too, in these
Yeah.
farm areas, high density areas.
And another thing, Dale, is there's actually, and you may be aware of a few of them too, that farms that are basically corporate or corporation farms now that don't even, because of different reasons, do not even allow hunting on their thousands of acres. And
Yeah.
again, there's one not far from where I live that they farm not several, but probably 3,000 acres, and they just don't let people hunt on the place.
Yeah.
And it's like a deer sanctuary.
Right.
Again, lots of I don't envy our Department of Natural Resources in these choices they have to make, and I
Right.
don't have that magic bullet, the cure or magic pill to
Right.
cure the problem. But some hunters complain that because they can't bait anymore, that they've quit, or can't get deer in close, and that was a good, I guess, tool as far as for shooting deer, but they have to make some decisions. Okay, what are we
Right.
going to do? How are we going to appease all these hunters? And again,
Right.
you're sitting
Yeah,
on
there's I mean, we've read hundreds of emails that were sent in, and a lot of different ideas, a lot of common ideas, but like I said, I mean, really we all need to come together for the common good
Yeah.
of getting
I
hunters.
think making it easier for the hunter to get access, and then somehow encouraging them to shoot does. Like I said, I'd love to see them just attach a free doe tag
Right.
with your buck license or your any deer license, even if we raise the fees $5. But
Right.
we got to do something.
Yeah, I totally agree. Last question before I go. Name current a current deer hunter. can be anywhere in the country or in the world, that you've probably really had a great story. I mean, beyond like some like Fred Bear and stuff, but somebody right now that you've hunted recently with, who would you say, like, give me a quick little fast story of somebody you hunted with that was just a amazing time. I'm sure everybody you hunt with is, I mean,
No,
so it's probably hard to choose one.
I really a couple. I'm going to have to give you a couple names because there's a
Okay.
couple that stand out as far as being great guys in camp and great hunters. Um, I've been fortunate to hunt with Tom Miranda. Tom
Mhm.
Miranda is hardcore.
Is it okay?
He's the real deal, and that's why he's so successful. And he's
Right.
a great guy to share camp with. He's just like anybody else. And I can easily say I've been with some other so-called archery celebrities, bow hunting
Right.
celebrities that I was one and done. I wouldn't share a campfire with them again. And
Yeah.
the other gentleman that I really, and I've hunted with him numerous times over the last 30, 40 years, and that's M.R. James, the editor of Bowhunter magazine,
You
past
know,
editor, past
I have got
founder.
a chance to through my hunting page. I know he's followed me a little bit and he's made some comments, so I have followed his page. Yeah, great gentleman. And
And a guy that, if you're a beginner or new, takes the time to explain things to you. And again, a real gentleman, and is a vast, as far as his knowledge. Oh
yeah,
my gosh, the guy knows a little bit about anything. I think of an early bear hunt I was on, and stuff that I shared camp, one of the first hunts we went on and stuff, and kind of took me under his wing. This
right.
was 20 some years ago. And again, I appreciate everything that guy did and has done for me. He's one of
Yeah.
my favorite bow hunters
Awesome.
out there. He truly is.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you tonight, Tom, for joining me and sharing some of your knowledge of the deer hunting world and the turkey hunting world too. It's always great to learn something new, and I hope everybody watching this is going to pick something up out of it. I know I've learned some tonight from you, and I always am going to welcome you back.
I appreciate it.
I
I
had
enjoyed it.
where I'll be up. I'm not sure if you're planning on attending, but we're going to be up in Grayling for the Fred Bear unveiling of their statue in September. So if you're going to be up
I
there,
will be there.
maybe we'll see them. I think I had heard that Ted Nugent's going to be there. I think you're friends with him, and so that should be a good time up there. And great honor to the great Fred Bear, and look forward to seeing you up there again.
I
But
want to leave you with one thought,
sure,
one comment for the listeners out there.
sure,
As a guy that's hunted whitetails in like 27 states and
okay,
all over, if you can take any deer in the state of Michigan, I don't care if it's a doe, 2 point buck, whatever, you can go to any of these big buck states like Iowa and Kansas and kill the biggest buck of your life, because the hardest state
yeah,
as far as hunting whitetails, in my opinion, is Michigan, without a doubt. So if you've taken a deer with a bow gun in Michigan, you're an accomplished hunter. And again, you could waltz into any of these other big buck states and do well. So my hat's off to all of you successful Michigan
awesome.
bow hunters and gun hunters.
Thank you for those words. Well, thank you once again, Tom. I appreciate it. I had a great time tonight talking to you and look forward to talking to you again. And I'm going to wish you the best in your future hunts. Are you off to
Appreciate it.
anywhere the coming weeks?
Going to Saskatchewan here this spring for my
Okay.
annual pilgrimage up there, hunting black bears and doing some fishing. And this Saturday I'll be over at the Michigan Bow Hunters Spring Banquet
Okay.
being held this weekend. So
Mhm.
I'm busy all the time, and I love it.
Awesome.
Love it. It has
That's
something to do
awesome.
with hunting
And
and
like I said,
fishing.
if you guys are watching out here, check out Tom's show on the
Please,
Outdoor Channel. What is
yes, sir.
that's on Sundays, correct? I believe.
Yep.
Okay,
Around
check
three
out
days a
Outdoor
week
Channel.
on the Outdoor Channel. Yes, sir.
American Outdoor or American Archer, and check out Michigan Bow Hunters. Great organization there. Does a lot of good for bow hunters throughout Michigan. And thank you very much once again, Tom.
No, my privilege. I appreciate it. Thank you, Dale, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening, and we'll talk to you soon. There, I'm gonna go ahead and turn my
Good. Thanks, Dale. I appreciate the opportunity.